So, friends of the show, Dave Smith and Omar Badr, went on Piers Morgan's show, and they debated this Israeli propagandist. And man, this is a lesson right here from Dave Smith. He is going to absolutely disarm this Zionist propagandist and run circles around her. And this is a real tutorial on how to navigate these sorts of debates and situations. So let's dive in and we'll break it down as we go.
It does beg the question, what happens next? I mean, I don't think there can be any future here that involves Hamas having any power whatsoever, nor do I think there can be any future with Netanyahu in charge of Israel. And I'm not entirely sure, given the scale of what's been going on in the last 7 months, dwarfing anything really we've seen in many decades, I don't know quite how we get to peace. How do we rebuild trust and get to some sort of peace? I mean, you must have thought about this a lot, Dave, like we all have. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, it certainly seems like a daunting task, and it seems right now that we're about as far from peace as we could possibly be. I think I may have said this to you when we were doing your show when you were in New York a couple months back. But, you know, like last year I went and did comedy shows in London, and then I flew over to Ireland and did shows right there. And, you know, you guys are right next door to each other, and there was a time when it seemed like you guys could never achieve peace. You know, the truth is that, as many pro-Israelis like to brag about, at Camp David in the late 70s, Israel did make a land deal with Egypt, a land for peace deal, and that peace stuck. They went to war 4 times in a little over 20 years, and they haven't been to war ever since. And so as bad as things do seem right now, I do believe that there's a path where there could be a deal made and there could be a lasting peace. But the bottom line is that what you have to understand, and I appreciate Emily saying that, like, there's been a lot of atrocities on both sides. I don't think anybody would deny that. And I don't think anyone would deny that Hamas has some responsibility for atrocities that they've committed. But the point is, the underlying fact that you can't get away from here is that this is an asymmetrical conflict. Israel has occupied Palestine since 1967. We're not talking about a few months after a war or even a few years after a war. We're talking about longer than the Soviet Union occupied Eastern Europe. And the idea that people say, well, if Hamas just surrendered today, the war would be over. Like, let's even say that's true, which I'm not convinced it is, but let's say that's true. And then what? Live in subjugation forever? I mean, look, the height of the Netanyahu doctrine was 2 weeks before October 7th, when he went to the United Nations with a map of greater Israel, including Gaza and the West Bank, all being Israel. That was the peak of the Netanyahu doctrine. And what he was telling the world and the Palestinians was, it's over, you lost, we won, we made our deals with the outside Arab world, no one's coming to save you. You live in subjugation forever. And the culmination of that was October 7th.
Okay.
And that's not to remove responsibility
Piers,
from Hamas.
Respond?
Yeah,
But you cannot remove responsibility from Israel
I'll
either.
let Emily respond to that.
I want to ask David, you just said Israel is occupied. Obviously, you hear that narrative every day. And I often hear chants, specifically here in Manhattan, we don't want 2 states, we want all of 48. When the UN came up with the partition plan and nobody was happy with that, and they gave land not only to Israel, but Jordan too, I can't help but to think, why does nobody criticize the occupation of Jordanians taking the land from the Palestinians? How come it's only anger once it's the only Jewish state in the entire world, in the entire globe, that suddenly it's occupation? And also, can somebody enlighten me how we occupied the land that never had a prime minister, never had a government, never had a currency, never had one person with historical ties to the land called Palestine?
Sure.
I just can't wrap my head around this occupation narrative.
Well,
that doesn't exist.
let me see.
Okay, so she thinks this is a gotcha question. She thinks it's like a checkmate on Dave. Watch how he handles this masterfully.
Let me see if I can help. So the reason why people aren't currently occupied about, or currently outraged about Egypt occupying Gaza or Jordan occupying the West Bank or something like that is because it's been over since 1967. So, like, yeah, if you want to go back historically, there were bad things that were done by lots of groups of people. However, since then, it's been the Israelis doing the occupation. That's not a narrative. That's just a description of reality. And as far as your point about, like, you know, that there was never a currency or there was never an official state of Palestine, as I've said before, I just find this to be the most un-American, unenlightenment way of looking at things. I mean, all you have to do is read the...
It's just comparing
Well, no,
facts.
it's not. No, it is completely irrelevant. And here's why it's irrelevant. Read the Declaration of Independence. That's all you need to do, and it will completely dispel you of that. The Declaration of Independence starts off right away.
Well, the Middle East is not America.
Hold on, let me just say this. Let me just...
Frankly,
no, okay, fine, it's not, but these values transcend America. It's the idea of natural rights. Man is born free because these are God-given rights, and governments are just something we institute to protect our rights. And if the government isn't doing a good job of that, then the people have the right and maybe even the duty to overthrow that government. No offense, Piers, you guys, you've had your wins too, but this one was ours. And so I'm just saying, no, listen, it doesn't matter whether they were dominated by the Ottomans or the British Empire or Jordan or Egypt before then. These are human beings who deserve natural rights, and they have absolutely no rights under Israeli rule and haven't since 1967. 1967 due to the Israelis?
Okay.
What happened
I
before
don't
that
think
is
Palestinians
irrelevant.
actually have full rights in
All right,
Israel,
let
but
me-
okay.
Well, I tell you what,
Yes, but
Emily,
I'm
on that,
talking
on that
about the
point.
Palestinians in Palestine.
Well, hey, hang on.
Cut through those talking points like a knife through hot butter, bro. Nothing. Easy work. Easy work. We're done. We're done here. Look, the thing that drives me crazy is, I swear to God, all of the Zionist propagandists, it's like you pull the drawstring on the back of the puppet and it says like the same three things over and over. And you all know what they are. You all know, the biggest one is to accuse somebody of being sympathetic to Hamas or call them an anti-Semite or bring up a very skewed version of history to try to portray the Israeli narrative. You've heard the a land for a people without a land. That is definitely not how it goes, but it's something like that. People for a land without a people. Jesus Christ, I don't know. My brain doesn't work. Hold on. A land without a people for a people without a land. We've heard that one a million times. A land without a people for a people without a land. And by the way, that's just a total fucking lie. Let's call a spade a spade. The idea that there were no people there is just a fucking lie. And so it's hard to engage in these debates and these conversations because when you get just rank dishonesty from half of the debate, how are you supposed to handle that? Well, you're supposed to handle that exactly as Dave Smith handled it here, where he just deconstructed it in record time right to her face. By the way, go watch the entire thing. Omar does a great job as well. And it's interesting because usually the Zionist propagandists who go on Piers' show, usually they're total fucking psychopaths. Some IDF loser spokesperson or Rabbi Shmuley or some other person who massively overreaches and who gets super aggressive and yells. We've seen that a million times. And those people don't tend to do well, right? I will admit, this particular Zionist propagandist was without a doubt the most level-headed, calm, reasonable one, where on multiple occasions you try to say, yeah, you have a point on this thing, but let me expand upon it. So, look, I think they could tell they're losing the propaganda war. The aggressive, we're going to yell at you, we're going to call you liars, we're going to say you're anti-Semites, we're going to say you love Hamas. I think they realize that is failing miserably. And so now you're getting this new flavor, this new variety of like liberal Zionist, moderate Zionist, who tries to be more level-headed in the debates. But as you can see, even with that presentation, all falls apart anyway. Because some things are just plainly indefensible. And this is one of them. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.